We need to have a very serious conversations about what is happening behind the scenes of the crypto exchanges. While most people are staring at the price candles, the smart money is looking at the vaults. We have here a massive report that has been dropped, highlighting some mind-blowing comments from crypto commentator Chad Steingraber. He just pointed out that the total amount of XRP left on all track exchanges is roughly $16.1 billion. Now, that might sound like a lot of money to you and me, but in the world of institutional finance, that is pocket change. Steingraber here dropped a bombshell statement. An entity like BlackRock could literally buy every single XRP left on exchanges in one single order. So in this video, we are going to break down the supply shock theory. I am going to give you my personal opinion on why these exchange outflows are the most bullish signals we've seen in years. So we have a lot to cover, so let's get right into the data. So let's start about why is $16 billion not enough for the world's biggest asset manager. So let's put this into perspective. BlackRock manages over $10 trillion in assets. $10 trillion. To a giant like that, $16 billion is like a rounding error and on their balance sheet. If Larry Fink decided tomorrow that BlackRock needed a major allocation of XRP for a new institutional product or ETF, they could theoretically wipe out the entire available supply or global exchanges in a few minutes. So in my own personal opinion, when I read that BlackRock could buy 16 billion XRP in one order, it really hit home just how small this market actually is. We think of crypto as this giant world, but compared to Wall Street, it's still a tiny baby. To me, this shows that we are one buy button away from a price explosion. If the big boys decide to enter, there simply isn't enough XRP for sale at these prices. This is why I always say don't let them shake you out, because once the supply is gone, it's gone. So the next question is, what does the exchange outflow data tell us about holder behavior? The data shows that since February 2025, XRP holdings on exchanges have dropped by 16%. We've seen over $3 billion worth of XRP leave exchanges in just over a year. But it gets even crazier when you look at specific platforms. Korbit lost 99.72% of its XRP. KuCoin shed 99.82%. Even major exchanges like Kraken have seen an 87.32% drop in their XRP balances. So in my own opinion, this tells me one thing. Diamond hunts. People are not leaving their XRP on exchanges to sell. They are moving it to cold storage, or they are preparing to use it in the new 2026 DeFi protocols like the XRPL lending layer. When people move their coins off an exchange, they are saying, I'm not selling today. I'm not selling tomorrow. As a trader, this is the best setup you can ask for. The sell side pressure is disappearing right before our eyes. So the next question is a supply shock the secret trigger for the next XRP pump? A supply shock happens when there is not enough of an asset available to meet a sudden spike in demand. If the supply on exchanges continues to bleed out, and then a major news event hits, like a BlackRock XRP ETF or a major bank partnership, the price has nowhere to go but up, and it has to move fast. My personal opinion about this is that I believe we are currently in the quiet before the storm. The supply is thinning out every single day. Most retail traders don't notice this because they only look at the price. But the supply is the fuel and the demand is the match. We have a massive pile of fuel sitting there, and it is getting smaller and more concentrated. When the demand match finally strikes, the price will not just crawl up, it will teleport. So, in my view, this is exactly how we hit those double digit targets people are dreaming of. So, the next question is, how do institutional scale and crypto availability compare? Steingraber's point is that the size gap between institutional capital and XRP availability is now massive. If an institution wants to move $100 billion, they can they can do it in the XRP market today because sending the price because it's because they can do it in the XRP market without sending the price to the moon. So in my own personal opinion, this is why I think the buy won't happen all at once on the open market. These big players will try to buy over the counter or OTC, but even OTC desks have to get their XRP from somewhere. Eventually, the demand hits the public exchanges. So my take is that the institutions are already accumulating slowly to avoid massive spike. But eventually, the secret gets out. Once the public realizes the exchanges are empty, that is when the FOMO, or fear of missing out, kicks in for everyone else. So, what happens to the price when exchanges run out of XRP? If demand grows at an institutional scale and the exchanges have nothing left to sell, the only way for a buyer to get XRP is to offer a price so high that a long-term holder is finally willing to sell. So my opinion is that this is the price discovery phase we have all been waiting for. If you are a holder, you get to decide the price. If the exchange is empty, the next available XRP might be priced at $5, $10, or even $50. So to me, the $16 billion figure is a warning to the bears. You can only hold the price down as long as you have tokens to sell. Once the vault is empty, the bears lose all their power. So, this data from Chad Steingraber is a huge wake-up call. $16.1 billion is all that stands between XRP and a massive supply shock. Whether it's BlackRock or another giant, the entry of just one major player could change the XRP landscape. And before we end, let's check the daily chart time frame of XRP, and our current price is at 1.44.07. Our current candlestick is trying to break our minor resistance here at 1.4371. But even if it is able to break this minor resistance, we have here a symmetrical triangle pattern that has been formed, and it needs to pass through or break the upper portion in order to continue trending upward. But if it fails, then we are going to expect a continuation of consolidation inside this triangle pattern. And this finally ends our video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you on the next one.